All right, so I want to talk about Jasmine Crockett and the Democrats now. I've been paying a lot of attention to Jasmine. She is one of the rising stars on the Democratic side. I want to play this because this is from last week's subcommittee hearing where Jasmine Crockett talked about this, and I want to play what's happened now because when I saw this last week, I'm like, she might be speaking a little bit premature. That's just my take on it.
You talked about what the American people are looking for us to do. We've actually consistently on this side of the aisle promoted this idea of making investments into technology so that we can do things such as, say, look at the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense that takes up approximately 50% of our discretionary income. Or our discretionary spending, approximately 50% goes to Department of Defense. Department of Defense has not been able to pass an audit in the last 6 audits, and we're not talking about pennies. I understand that we want everything to be perfect, and if we could get all waste, fraud, and abuse out, that would be fantastic. But let me talk about the big numbers. The big numbers.
She didn't really address the things that they found in the entitlement programs. There were some things that they did find that they presented. Now, what Ms. Crockett said at the time last week, she was like, well, they're not dealing with defense.
Tonight, the Pentagon announcing it will eliminate the jobs of some 5,400 employees beginning next week. The latest and one of the deepest known cuts to any one federal department.
Let's pause it right there. Now, what does that say right there? The Department of Defense.
A DoD statement saying the termination of as much as 8% of the civilian workforce is to, quote, produce efficiencies and refocus the department on the president's priorities. Late today, President Trump pressed to defend the deep cuts being pushed by ally Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency.
He's doing something that a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do. We want to streamline our country.
It comes amid a backlash to the cross-country cuts now showing up at congressional town halls. Constituents confronting Republican lawmakers from Georgia.
We are all freaking pissed off about this.
To Wisconsin.
How can we be represented by you if you don't have a voice in Congress?
Robert McCabe was fired from his job at the IRS in Philadelphia on Thursday. He says he was a Trump supporter who applauded the president's search for wasteful government spending.
I thought that someone with like his business acumen would have come in with a fine-tooth comb.
And I talked about this guy before. So again, if you voted for Donald Trump, I think it's hypocritical now to say because you lost your job, you're mad. Because if you knew Trump ran on what he ran on, everybody knew he was going to make he was going to slim down the government. There was no secret about it. So if you voted for Donald Trump and your department got hit because you're working for the government, if this gentleman didn't get fired from the IRS, would he still be a Trump supporter? Probably would be.
Instead of coming in with a wrecking ball and destroying people's lives for no reason.
A new Washington Post poll shows the president's early actions are unpopular, supported by just 43% of Americans. 57% of respondents telling the Post they believe the president has exceeded his authority. The president dismissing concerns about the cuts without providing evidence.
We've polled it, and people are thrilled. They can't even believe it's happening.
Earlier, the president speaking to a bipartisan gathering of governors at the White House, offering this update on his efforts to end the war in Ukraine.
I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had not such good talks with Ukraine. They don't have any cards, but they play it tough.
The president also butting heads with Maine's Democratic Governor Janet Mills over her state's refusal to comply with the president's executive order seeking to ban transgender women from women's sports, threatening the state's federal funding.
You better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
The Democrats, what I worry about them is that in 4 years, I don't know if they're going to have anything to argue about unless they're just saying that we hate Donald Trump. But if he ended up trimming down the government and everything's more efficient, save the taxpayers money, that's technically what a president is supposed to do, you know. So I think it's an interesting time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Whether you like Donald Trump or Elon Musk, that's not really my point. And whether you're Democratic or Republican, I think the reality is what issues do the country has, and do you think that Donald Trump is solving any other problems in the country or is making it worse? I'm always open for both sides because again, it's all about really learning, coming together. I think people should be talking to each other more, having more conversations. But I think the Democrats' playbook, as far as just hating Donald Trump. I think they're continuing that. And I think that I don't know what they're going to run on in 4 years, because I don't know if we're just going to run on we need to put everybody back in the government and come back to a bloated government, if that's what it appears to be when all this is over. That's going to be a weird thing to argue about. So let me know what you guys think. Crucial Convo.